Wow, the market's open early in London. I hadn't realised that, but 6% already on top of 5% last week. The Australian market dropped 6% today and then recovered a bit to finish at just over 4%. So we'll see what happens. But Donald Trump creating market mayhem around the world with his tariff push. I want to get to your interview. You caught up with Nigel Farage and you asked him about what's been going on in Australia, what his observations about our election campaign. And here he is on Anthony Albanese.
Look, I mean, you know, he called a big national referendum, which he did. You know, I mean, it's the wokest referendum ever held anywhere. And he had it handed to him on a plate, didn't he? He thought he'd breeze through, you know, Qantas and all the big companies backing him, the elites in Melbourne and Sydney backing him, and yet the Australian people decisively said no. And I think that referendum, to me, sums up a failed premiership.
Yeah, good observation there from Nigel Farage. He did turn it into the wokiest referendum. There was a 60-40 support for the voice when he called the referendum. He turned that around to 40-60 the other way. And that tells us that Anthony Albanese is not a good campaigner, right? He can't run a good, strong campaign. We saw that in the last federal election campaign. But so far in this campaign, he's doing a lot better than most people expected, Sophie.
Well, it's only early days, Chris. There's a long way to go in the campaign. But as it is important here, I travelled to Kent last week to speak one-on-one with Nigel Farage. And the reason Nigel Farage's comments are so interesting is he's very close with Donald Trump, as we know. Yep. And so understanding his thoughts on this, and he said Peter Dutton obviously aligns far closer with his views with Trump than Albanese. And he really did call out the voice referendum. He called out Australia for a lot of its woke views. And we can see around the world there is a shift perhaps from the left to the right. That's not to say Albo will not win the election. But I think what Nigel Farage was saying was, with the example with the referendum, he had all the backers, Chris, and he lost it. Really badly so. So it was very interesting talking to him about this. Yeah,
those backers don't help you though. You got to remember that whenever the big corporates are telling you to do something, people tend not to go with it. I spoke to Nigel Farage in Australia. He was out here during the referendum campaign. We had quite a spirited discussion about it. It is fascinating. He's a pretty keen observer of these things, and I agree with you. It's early in the campaign, but Albanese's actually been a bit more confident this time. Let's hope he completely stuffs up at the People's Forum tomorrow night and we get to see the real Albo. But you did ask Nigel Farage directly about who's best to deal with Donald Trump, but here it is.
The American relationship for Australia is absolutely key, as indeed it is for us. I'd have thought Dutton would speak more of the language of Trump than Albanese would. But I mean, let's not forget that the Trump agenda is America first. So we might be friends with America, but he's always going to put American interests first, and we have to bear that in mind.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it, Sophie? Presumably some of that message might get back to Donald Trump.
Well, who knows, Chris? But again, pay attention to Nigel Farage. He has a direct phone line to the US president. They're close friends. Pay attention to what he is saying. And he is saying that a relationship for Australia would be far more beneficial with Peter Dutton in office. So he's no fan of Albo. He loves Australia. He's very fond of Australia, Nigel Farage. He follows politics closely. So he'll be watching this election very closely. But he is all obviously on the side of Peter Dutton to get into government, which he thinks will benefit Australia's relations with the US.
Yeah, spot on. Now, very, very briefly, a lot of focus on electric vehicles here at the moment. Just when the UK, under the Labor Prime Ministership of Keir Starmer, is pulling back a little bit on the government push towards EVs.
Absolutely, Chris. So he's come out in the papers today, set to announce winding back of some of the rules that would come into place, banning petrol and diesel cars by 2030. He's pushing out hybrids. They're originally going to be banned from 2030. He's now saying 2035. And also the fines on companies, if they don't meet their targets, they're originally going to get fined $15,000 per vehicle that didn't meet their target. That's now being reduced to £12,000 pounds, so about 24,000 Aussie dollars. So he's winding back these penalties and rules, obviously in light of the tariffs. So there's a very jittery car market here. We've seen Jaguar stop their importings to the US as a result of the tariffs. There could be a lot of jobs lost here, Chris. So there's a very nervous motor industry here in Britain.
Yeah, and the UK pulling back on this stuff while we're going headlong down that path under Labor and Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese. Thanks, Sophie Elsworth. Fantastic stuff. Sophie there joining us live from London.